Welcome to the REALL Academy, brought to you each Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time by the
Systems Doctors,
Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor, best-selling authors, consultants, and speakers of Create and Educate LLC. Create and Educate LLC is an educational consultant and literary firm that provides professional development to schools and community. Their goal is to transform organizations with the REALL Resilient framework used to increase their school report card grades 2 and 3 grade levels in 1 year. REALL stands for Respect, Excellence, Accountability, Literacy, and Leadership. This framework is used to coach leaders and teachers and build student efficacy while putting systems in place that aligns the work of the school improvement, making the process manageable. When the work is manageable, teachers and leaders don't stress out or burn out.
the Systems Doctors
Alignment systems are designed to help schools evolve and grow, all while instituting protocols and processes designed to promote collaboration and collegiality. The implementation of the alignment framework prevents some of the most common problems in education, where leaders sometimes aren't sure where to start, or in our new age of educating, leaders need a trusted sounding board that allows them to be vulnerable and transparent, preventing loneliness at the top. The framework doesn't just help leaders, but also prevents teachers from burning out from too many initiatives and embracing teachers as they are the experts. Finally, the framework extends to the children, helping them get engaged in school and solving a nationwide problem. Alignment systems are frequently referred to as a key element of success in the improvement process. In the sport of rowing, all rowers must put their oars in the water, succinctly creating a system for their boat to reach maximum speed. So schools that want to improve are bringing in
the Systems Doctors
to teach them all about the alignment systems that must be in place for school improvement to be accomplished at high levels. The dynamic duo provides insights into educational topics through their international platform, which includes educators, parents, and community members as a way to support important entities that make communities thrive. This is their way to pay it forward and provide the support they needed through their platform. Take a look. People who work with the
Systems Doctors
describe them as an excellent and inspiring group of leaders. They get into the weeds of work with leaders through their TrustMate Institute that you should contact them about today by filling out the contact form on their website.
Unmute. It's Super Saturday, everyone. Welcome to the REALL Academy. I am Dr. Sheikah Houston, and the REALL Academy is brought to you by Create and Educate. We are your very own Systems Doctors, HERS.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Sheikah. I'm Dr. Tammy Taylor. Thank you all for joining us and welcome everybody.
Yes, welcome. So each week, your Systems Doctors bring you information based on our framework that you can see at the top of the pane as well as over our shoulders with embedded improvement strategies to pay it forward because we have become what we needed in leadership, and that is collaborative experts.
Absolutely. After improving our school's report cards 2 and 3 levels in a single year with our dynamic staffs, we also became award-winning leaders who have served both at the school and district levels. We knew that other leaders and educators needed help with the school improvement process. And so we decided that this was something that we could do to pay it forward.
Most definitely. And so, if you're navigating the school improvement process and your staff members need to hear a story of triumph, we definitely have one for you, along with visuals that you all would get free of charge for booking us, just to have that constant reminder that it has been done, it's being done, and you can definitely do the very same thing. We also offer customized team building and are booking for leadership retreats as we speak. So visit our website. Pedrick, our platform engineer, will copy and paste it and put that into the comments. You can fill out the form, and then we'll definitely get you the information. As edu creators, we offer a number of services that you'll be able to see on our website. So please like, share, subscribe, send stars, comment, do all of the things that the platforms do to help us build these algorithms. Please and thank you.
Yes, each Saturday morning we come to you as a part of our live stream network, the Fantastic Four. And we are humbled and elated to be part of such a force to be reckoned with. It begins on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. with Principal Sean Hurd. And I hope you all were able to join him this morning. He asked the question, are we ready? So we need to make sure that we are utilizing these last few weeks before testing strategically and being intentional about the work that we're doing. Thank you so much, Principal Hurt, for the fire that you bring all the time. And then, of course, we're following Principal Hurt, yours truly, Create and Educate with Dr. Shika Houston and you, the one and only here. But we're very, again, grateful to be a part of that fantastic lineup, because after us at 10:55, the GOAT comes on. The Godfather in Education, Principal Kafele, is on with the virtual AP and New Principals Academy. And then on Sunday evenings, Dr. Moreno and Josh Tovar are a part of the Fantastic Four and closes us out with the PGP podcast. So if you haven't heard Principal Hurt this morning, you need to go back and listen to the fire that he was bringing, because we definitely have to be intentional about the time that we have left in this school year.
Most definitely. And if this is your first time tuning in to the Real Academy with your systems doctors, every Saturday we do our Real Fam shout outs, because there would be no reason for us to be on every morning without you. We appreciate you all for tuning in every Saturday, and we enjoy the collaboration with you. So shout out to AP Patrick Lawrence, Tashika Truesdale, David Bell, Rella Hicks, Kenna Rowland, one of our Fantastic Four comrades, Josh Tovar, Buenos Dias, Josh, and I think he's on the treadmill. Melissa Jones Chunu, Dr. Griffin, he's been knocking it out the park. We've been seeing you traveling and doing your thing, Doc. Kiara Jenkins, the one and only Doc McKeever Jeter, we appreciate you. The GOAT, Principal Kafele, is in the house. We always appreciate you. Principal Sean Hurt, like Tammy said, brought that fire this morning. Stacy L. Joy, September Devon Vance Daniels, and let me see, Arcella, Queen Arcella Ostry. Thank you for joining us, and Queen Jasmine Harris. Chancellor Rashard Davis out of Las Vegas, we appreciate you, and I believe I got everybody. So that brings us to episode 184 of the Real Academy. It's all in the messaging. And if you've tuned in with us previously, you know that messaging is a big part of our formula, because if you don't state things correctly, they won't be received. Sometimes it could create bias. There is so much in the messaging. And we were supposed to have on a guest with us this morning, but there was a mix up in the time. She's actually traveling now to be with her daughter in New York. So we will definitely reschedule. But Beulah Mcloyd was going to be on with us. She's a principal out of Chicago. And the reason that this whole topic came up was from a post that she made. And she's also in education, principal work as well as transformation work. We'll tell you all about her when she does get to join us. But we're going to definitely talk about this topic that she posted previously this week. She said she's been doing several observations and she wanted to gently remind people that it's corrective instruction, not reteaching, and students who require tier 3 services, not tier 3 students. Language matters. And it most definitely does matter because the way that students are described or the way that we are describing the work of what we're doing in education brings about a certain mindset about what we're doing. And just for review, because we're educators, we're going to review our framework: respect, excellence, accountability, literacy, and leadership are the parts that are needed for school improvement. But these parts form three major systems, and that's systems of respect, systems of excellence, and systems of accountability. And with our framework as well as our systems, we've created a formula to be able to help leaders and teachers develop what you need. And so the first thing is the what. The messaging develops that trust because now we have an understanding of why it's important. Plus, that effective process, your who, your when, and your how, equals your success over refinement. So, this is what we're going to be discussing this morning, even without our guest, because this is something that Tammy and I know as transformation specialists ourselves. If you do not have the correct messaging, the effort that you need will not be put forth. Now, when we're talking about, go ahead, Tammy, were you going to say something?
No, I just said that's for sure. I will say this though, if you hear something that you like and it sounds really good to you, if we're talking good like our big brother Sean heard, make sure you drop it in the comments that you are hearing some good stuff. Okay.
Right. And so when Principal Kafele talks about that mirror that proverbial mirror that we place in front of ourselves, this is where that messaging comes into play because when you say things like, oh, I need to reteach. The reason why a lot of times that's not received, and if you all keep hearing this dinging, I'm off site somewhere. Can you hear it, Tammy? Every
Okay.
time the door opens, okay, so I apologize. I can't do anything about the noise, but they have given me a space and I'm very
It's not
thankful.
off-putting. It's fine. Like it's
Oh,
really
okay. It's just
subtle.
a
I
little
hear
bit.
it because I know to hear it. But I
Okay,
don't think
gotcha.
anybody else would pay attention.
So when we're saying reteaching, I'm not sure about at your school, but sometimes that really resistance comes about when you say the word reteaching. And I think in a lot of people's minds, it's off putting because I've taught the lesson. I gave it all I knew to give it. I put forth everything I knew to give, and now you want me to do it all again? I think sometimes that's the thought process. But when you say things like corrective instruction, that means that, well, something has to happen differently with the instruction. Reteach means that whole process that I just went through, where some of the children may not have gotten certain concepts or they weren't even ready to receive certain concepts because there's gaps in their learning. You want me to go back and do all of that over again? It's off putting. But when you say corrective instruction, that puts forth something different to the fact of, okay, so the instruction is what is needed to be corrected because for some reason, whatever it is, it wasn't received by the child. And this is where we have to move to in education. We can't keep looking at the children as if something is wrong with the children. We've got to turn the mirrors around and make sure that we are correcting the instruction. And it's not to say that something was wrong with it. It just didn't meet the needs of this child, because you may have had some children who did get it, but all of them didn't. What are your thoughts, Tammy?
I mean, I think too, and this is something that we've talked about before. I think that we have to really look at the instruction period as
Mhm.
what it is. And that goes back to making sure that teachers understand the depth and complexity of the standards that are being taught. And so, what we have to do, and this has to happen simultaneously to the teaching and the planning, all that's why teaching is such a complex art. You
Mhm.
have to make sure that you're taking into consideration the gaps that might already exist, and that could be what hindered the child from getting the content that you taught. It wasn't that it wasn't taught well. Now sometimes it was that it wasn't taught well,
Sometimes.
and if it wasn't taught well, that shows up in a CFA, or that shows up in your exit tickets. Nobody got it. And you know what? That calls for a reteaching, and that calls
Mhm.
for a corrective reteaching, because what you did before didn't work at all.
Right.
So you definitely have to, reflect yourself. That's where that mirror that you talked about, that Principal Kafele holds up in our face, comes into play. We have to be honest with ourselves when we miss the mark, but we also have to always, I think, be cognizant of where the children are. And that's why it's important to keep anecdotals, and to
Mhm.
have something that helps you to keep up with how the kids are progressing through the standards that you're expecting them to learn. And
Mhm.
this is important because we talked about this once before, Shika, where number sense is a very important part of a child's math journey. If they
Mhm.
don't get it, then the potential is there for lessons to flop for them consistently, because they're missing foundational things that help them to process and understand what it is that's being taught. So during that time that we're preparing these lessons, we also have to be prepared for the corrective reteaching, which could include, for some children, an initial teaching of gaps that are there that are hindering them from being able to participate in that particular part of the learning. So I think with intentionality and with the trust that we have to place in our teachers to
Mhm.
make sure that they're keeping up with who's getting what, we can see things that change along that trajectory of what's happening in those classrooms. I'm in some of my classes. Sometimes I go in and I'm just really, really proud because I see how teachers have pulled a small group based on the fact that I saw this didn't go over so well. This isn't in the plan anywhere. This is
Mhm.
not a part of what I had intended to do, but I know
Mhm.
this is what I have to do to be
Right.
ready for this child to move on with a class, and we're not leaving anybody behind.
Oh, I love that, Tammy. And that is what the art of teaching is. It is making those pivots right when you see them happening. And a lot of teachers are knocking this out of the park. A lot of leaders are coaching their teachers and helping them knock this out the park. But there are still some who need help with it. And we hope that something that we're saying and providing this morning will be something that will help with the process. So another part of what we're going to be
And
talking
Shika,
about.
before we go on, just want to put a pin note here, because I understand if you're an administrator that gives you heartburn, like, I know that plans are in place for a reason, and some people are very rigid about plans, and people come into your building from the district who are rigid about plans, and they come in and they see that a teacher is off script. You just have to be confident in yourself and in the capabilities of your teachers, and again have that trust that is reciprocated, you to the teacher to you, knowing that these teachers, maybe she was off script, but guess
Mhm.
what, she was off script for a reason, and I trust her professionally to
Mhm.
do what she's supposed to do for these kids. We have that level of reciprocal respect, professional respect for what happens in those classrooms. And we just have to be willing to challenge the status quo. Like we don't just keep going on with a lesson
Mhm.
because this is what we've planned. No, lessons are about children.
Most definitely. And as we move on to, I know that everyone has, if you're in education, you've seen that triangle that exists for the different tiers. And tier one is at the bottom, tier two is at top on top of that, tier three is at the very top. And, the majority of your students, everybody gets tier one instruction. Some may need tier two, some may need tier three. The problem, I think, and Tammy, as we review this as well, the encasing of the triangle, even sometimes the imagery that we use can put a perception in people's minds to make them feel like students are sentenced to tier three or tier two or special education services. And this is something that really, if you really want to get on my bad side, this is something that really burns me up, because I've even sat in meetings where I've heard administrators say, "Oh, if students are getting A's and B's, how can they be in tier two and tier three? If they're in tier two and tier three services or special ed, they should not be able to make A's and B's, as if A's and B's are only for certain people." A's and B's or the grade that somebody's getting could mean that the interventions that we're providing are working and these children are being successful from the services that we're putting in. So this is just another way to look at how we approach the labels that we have that are damaging in education. So when we're talking about teaching and learning, we always start with that standard. You see it at the top. Extended services are all of the services. Every student is at the bottom because every student will receive some type of extended service if they are in education. That means they could get gifted and talented services, they could receive tier 2, tier 3 instruction, or they could be in special education. It is no reason for a lot of the children to know what all of these labels are that tear down their self-esteem, or I've seen the GT, make their self-esteem inflated and make them arrogant and think they better than everybody. I think we need to do a better job with the labeling. So extended services, just that's the umbrella, it's the gamut. And when we're talking about tier 1, that's the core one. That's your core curriculum. And a lot of times children in GT, when we're going on to the other groups, we just assume that they got it and then we give them more work instead of exposure to higher rigor. So that's why that exposure is there. And then core 2 means that there may be one or two concepts that corrective instruction is needed for. Core 3 means that there may be 3 or 4 concepts that corrective instruction is needed for. And when you look at things differently, when your messaging is different, then teachers do not feel as if, or educators, because this comes from top level leadership all the way down to parents sometimes, even sentence children to special education or tier 3 instruction. And special education does not mean you cannot do. If you have your accommodations, if they are met, you should be able to do what other children are doing. And we've got to remove the bias, because the bias that comes with the labels is damaging what we're doing with the children in our classrooms and in instruction and in schools. So we've got to do something different. What are your thoughts, Tammy? I see a lot of comments that we can go up back to as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking, and I know we are going to have to wrap up in just a few minutes, but I was thinking that sometimes what happens when I think people misunderstand, sometimes children are in a tier three situation because they are struggling with a particular thing. The
Mhm.
goal is that students are moving in and out of these tiers all the time. Now,
Exactly.
sometimes I think we use the tier system though as a vehicle towards special education. And if that's
Mhm.
the way you're using it, then sometimes we are locking them into or sentencing them to a particular tier and not even giving them the opportunity to earn their way into wherever they're supposed to be. So I do not agree that
Mhm.
a child has to make a certain grade because they're in a particular tier, because they may not be in the tier for the thing that they got the A in. So, we just have to be very cognizant of the fact that we're talking about children and we're not talking about numbers. And we're
Right.
not talking about subjects. We're talking about human beings who
Yes.
are working, and the point of the work is for me to support students with what they need. They're supposed to be able to do what it is they are asked to do, because that's what teaching and learning is all about. And I think if we ever could get all on the same page, we could see that we could get traction, and
Mhm.
we see children moving in and out of tiers. I can say this. I know that at my school, children don't get stuck in a tier and are
Mhm.
never able to move. That's a
Right.
part of the beauty of the process in our MTSS conversations. And Mr. Hampton's on here, who leads that process for us.
Mhm.
We see children moving fluidly through those tiers. You know why? I have strong interventionists who provide the interventions that are needed. And when you give kids what they need, guess what they give you? What they have.
Result.
That's right.
Exactly. And
So,
the reason that standard is up there is because this is by standard. Just because a child by the universal screener was in a certain tier doesn't mean that they're in that tier for every standard. So we have to look at our data by the standard to make sure that we're serving the children correctly. GT students could be in tier 3 for a particular standard. So we've got to use the data. We've got to use it for what it was meant for, and that is not,
and look at the kids
yes,
individually,
to
because that's what
sentence
it's about.
children to a tier. So we are at our time. We hope that this information is helpful. Feel free to use that graphic, pass it on. We'll post it again later as well. And please join us next on Principal Kafele's page. We know that he has some great information for us, and we will definitely get Miss McLeod rescheduled. You all have a great rest of your Saturday.
See you all.